Yes.
We made it, people. We made it. We made it. How are we, people? How are we?
Hey, we're good. We're good. How about you?
That is the perfect sound effect.
Yes. Yes.
So I'll try again. How are we, people? How are we doing?
Good. Thank you. Yes.
Lovely, lovely stuff, guys. So, welcome to Man Up for What's first live event.
Yes.
Progress.
Come on.
Progress.
Co-hosted by The People Speak. And I would love to just kick this off, obviously, thanking The People Speak for this lovely, lovely opportunity. We've been out there, we've been in the trenches, we've been running around, we've been trying to find people, someone to give us a hug, a hand over the shoulder. But honestly, we really appreciate this and we are so, so grateful. As you can see, we actually managed to get the whole team here somehow, which is actually perfect, knowing the boys that I normally work with. So, just wanted to kind of kick things off. Before we get into the proper introductories, I just thought maybe we'd start on a nice little light note. We've got a little bit of spoken word / poetry from one of our more creative members, which is Janelle. From Janelle, feel free to at least say hi to the audience, so whoever's watching.
Hello, everybody. I hope all of you are having a great start to your new year so far.
Lovely, lovely stuff. A few of you may already know Janelle, or a few of us already previously from what you've seen on YouTube and some of the bits on Spotify as well. So, Cage, do you want to take us away? For those who don't know, his name is Cage as well. So if you want to take us away, stage is yours, brother.
Man up, says the guy who wasn't there to support his child and complain about responsibilities but wasn't taking responsibility. Getting drunk too often was a walking liability. As a child, I used to wonder why in films you would see someone sitting or lying down with their head up speaking to a psychiatrist. To grow up and realize life ain't no joke, but when it came to my emotions, I was the quietest. Told I couldn't release tears, had to show strength among my peers, the shame in front of others, now I fear. So if my mental health was debt, I'd be drowning in arrears. In school, knowing you're gonna see the same people the next day, going home, not knowing if the youths in the streets will treat you as prey, so I hold the bouquet of the words from survival, either be a victim or statistic of a vicious cycle. As boys, we feel showing emotion was showing weakness. Getting told to man up, I couldn't bench press my way out of hiding how I was feeling. The same people who say you're soft for being romantic, the insecurity of no happiness and love was volcanic. Why as parents do we teach our sons to do things that impress girls rather than to be compassionate and great people? And then grow up to force dominance over our partner and not treat them equal. Then children are traumatized by abuse and passive aggression. Then grow to be 30 and still not reach adolescence. See, life is a lesson. Why were you conditioned? We get in relationships where boys were like caterpillars. Without treating women properly, we can never be a butterfly and question by other caterpillars why you changed. We're meant to evolve and the world doesn't revolve around you. If we don't unlearn what we were taught, we stay in that cocoon of never healing. See, you could be pumping weight, don't mean that you're strong. You could be munching steak to try fit where you don't belong. Because I was at a job that wasn't paying enough. Doing delivery on the back with a wage embarrassed to discuss. I was depressed, feeling I wish I got killed by a boss. How does it feel being told it's all in the head? I got home feeling alone, crying in my bed, wishing my friend wasn't dead and I'm low on my bread. An invisible ceiling was created by men of toxic masculinity. Also a result of separations, divorce and broken families. What happened to telling sons to follow their dreams of being a creative, then who's the best team like in school? To realize they be in debt, to try and press or compensate to feel a fool. Man up. Says the woman who doesn't understand self-love or didn't make the effort to heal from broken past and feel they have to live the rest of their life with a broken heart. Tough when your grandparents make you less of a man if you don't get your grands up. But you're better off telling someone to grow up rather than to man up. The only person who can get me out of this is myself. Stop comparing to others and don't look as material to define your wealth. I thought I needed bigger muscles to attract the opposite sex, until I learned to love myself and be grateful of the smallest things was the biggest flex. And if sleep is the cause of death, then I put my pride to rest. So don't you ever try say the realist covers how they feel. It's okay to let your guard down. We accept you because that's what's real. In a life where we overthink. I want to be vulnerable sometimes with my friends. So hopefully there's more space freed up in my mind to think right. When I start comparing myself to other guys who look like they may have achieved more, there's more stars in the sky than there is people. I'd rather hear your pain encourage you that it's okay to open from what's inside, to have you think you would cry when you didn't, and I wish I was there before you committed suicide. So before you think of telling someone to man up, think before you be the reason of a man down. Man up.
Lovely, lovely stuff.
Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much for that, Cage. That's what happens when you pass your GCSE English. We love that. We love that. So, obviously, just to introduce ourselves, we are Man Up For What? We are a group of young men, I would like to say, who have been friends for almost 17 years now, guys, isn't it? Almost 17 years.
A long time, man.
Yeah, I don't even know how I'm still around you lot. But honestly, it's 17 years now, and I think that's where our solidarity starts, because we literally speak to each other as if we're brothers. There is no boundaries, there's no walls. So what happened was, personally, in terms of where we came from, I was going through a little bit of a mental health battle myself during lockdown, and I realized just sitting there, going to my friend's house, and, you know, sorry, Boris, you've been doing it, so we might as well. So we were going to my friend's house during lockdown. At least we disclose what we do. So going to my friends during lockdown and just having a beer, just having a nice little talk every Friday. And I realized how much weight we were getting off our shoulders, how much it was helping us. Like I said, we're sounding for solidarity and brotherhood, and it was nice for us. And I thought, you know what, guys? I feel like us as men, we are stuck in this vicious cycle. We're in this period of our lives where, in the society we live in now, we cannot express how we feel. If you're having a bad day, you can't express that to anyone. You're expected to just go home, hug the wife and kids, hug your mom, hug your brothers, do all of that. And you can't really feel like you can actually speak to someone. So as a result of that, we came up with Man Up For What? Because honestly, guys, what are we manning up for? That's the major question. You fall over, you do whatever, someone else says, come on, man up. For what? I don't know you nothing. At the end of the day, you need to look after number one. And that's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to discuss, guys. So as you can see, I've got a few people around me, which is perfect. That means I will not be taking up all the talking time. Sorry. And we've got some listeners as well who's going to be on. We've got YouTube, Instagram Live, got Facebook, got Zoom as well. Perfect. So we've got all the platforms here. And the one thing I can do is encourage you guys, first of all, if you can, turn on your cameras. Let everything go. Throw everything off your shoulders. Feel free to be expressive. There is no one who's going to judge you here. There's no one who's going to be looking at you any sort of way about what you're going through, what you want to express to us. And also help me out, because I talk a lot. So, you know, guys, it'd be quite nice if I get the opportunity not to talk as much. So should we go around just for those people who don't know exactly what members are part of the team? So just starting over here, we'll keep it nice, short and snappy. We're starting with...
Archie, I'm back again.
Lovely stuff. Short and snappy.
I had to learn about this.
Go ahead.
Hi there, my name's Abel, and my left.
Yeah, I'm pretty much part of the Man Up For What group.
Hi, I'm... Hi, I'm David, part of the Man Up For What group.
Fresh trim.
I'm Mikey, part of the People Speak, helping David with the sound effects.
Yeah, I'm Janelle, but I go by my stage name J Cage.
Lovely stuff.
That's it.
Going well.
Richie Mohammed. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Richie Mohammed, I'm a guest here today. Just to find out what you guys are about. Hopefully ask some questions.
That's it, that's what we like to hear. And last one?
Yeah, I'm Ian, I'm a guest here. I've never manned up in my life.
No. There we go. That's it.
Right. That's it.
Hopefully, you're open to his, yeah? Hopefully we'll find the courage for you. So, as you guys may know, we are at the People Speak, which is a small local studio in the Poplar area, who have provided this beautiful table here. And I feel like a super villain. I love this. This is brilliant. I'm taking over in here. I'm in charge today. I'm in charge. So, guys, the main thing is, I just wanted to start on that note. It's a completely open panel. Those on Zoom as well, or the other streaming platforms. What is mental health to you? Not what you read on Wikipedia or on the internet or whatever. What is it to you as a person? Feel free to put your hands up. Who wants to kick us off?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to maybe start, because I myself have suffered mental health quite seriously. To me, growing up, I've never had issues like mental issues. Although I've grown up doing, you know, mental health has really taken a toll on myself due to the fact I was not aware of these things. Yeah, growing up, you know, wasn't educated the way I'd like to. My background wasn't like family wasn't as tight and as supportive, like mum, dad. You know, it was a broken home. Growing up, you know, addiction problems, but still fighting. You know, trying to man up, and do the right thing. You know. You know, I didn't go to, you know, I'd missed out of school's education, but I still tried to, you know, do things, you know, to the point where, you know, I've travelled around the world, I've been to America, I've been to, you know, China, tried to do business and stuff. Then I've got into marriage, I've had children, and, you know, like, that is where, like, the pressures of life hit me hard. And, yeah, breakdown. I had a full-blown breakdown. And that was when I began to really believe in a mental health, because when you don't believe in it, you can't fix yourself. How can you fix yourself if you can't admit up to it and say, yo, I've got an addiction which has caused mental health problems, or I've got a mental health problem due to the things that I'm doing today. You know.
There you go. Got a bit of Tim Westwood in the house. Love that.
But I think like you've hit quite a few like a lot of points there. 'Cause, like for me, mental health it can be as big and as small as anything, and I feel like that's probably where people don't proper like look like the education piece, because mental health is our schizophrenia, and it can be anything. I'm not obviously accredited to be saying what mental health definition is, but like for me, I feel like it can be as small as stress or something as anxiety and things like proper like getting into your head and causing mental breakdowns. So yeah, I mean that's what I would say about mental health.
Yeah, I think you hit a good point there, both of you, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people in the world that we live in, normally people like to hit the ground surface of what mental health is. Schizophrenia is this, but there's something a lot deeper to that. And like you mentioned yourself, is because of that you've been told to man up. You've been told, yeah, you've got this, get through with it. That's what you are as a man. That's how you should express yourself. So that's why I wanted to ask the next question, just as a spin on that. Do you think the fact that mental health and being told to man up works hand in hand? Being a man makes it harder for you, being expected to have these pressures for you to hit. Do you think that's something that you have yourself?
For me, it's like throwing fuel on fire. If you're a man and you've got a mental health problem, it's like the two don't go together because they're not meant to go together. Which is wrong, because obviously we should all be able to talk about it, but it's like if you've got that, I guess that phrase that everyone probably just, yeah, like you say, just man up, or what do you mean you've got a mental health issue? Like, what is that? Like,
Yeah, grow up,
or be a man, or boys will be boys, that kind of thing. So I think, yeah, there's a bad stigma around mental health, and then especially men. I'm not saying, obviously, of course, it affects everyone disproportionately, but yeah, it doesn't go together.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Anybody on Zoom, feel free. Anyone else, even on our Instagram, feel free to just drop us a little bar, little paragraph or whatever. We are more than welcome to listen to what you guys have to say.
Got a hand up,
Oh,
You know what,
lovely, lovely.
Yeah. Do you want to just unmute yourself, Rajan?
Yeah, hi, how you doing? Yeah, everyone all right, yeah?
Yeah.
All good, thank you.
First and foremost, happy Friday.
There we go. Thank you.
But for those that are working, Saturday, Sunday jobs, also, I hope goes off to you. I'll take it off, but I don't want to show my head. But, I've worked, I've worked Monday to Sunday doing deliveries, I've worked as a photographer. I've been through so much stuff when it comes to working. Ultimately, when it comes to mental health, and like, you made a valid point when it comes to that being a man. Like, I've got 4 older sisters, and my eldest one, she's taking that sort of role to make sure that our family are safe. My mum and dad are okay. She's doing a great job and so forth. So for me, it's not about just being a man and the role in the family. I get it. It depends on where you are in the sort of like in the hierarchy of the family system. Do you see what I mean? So for me, it's like I'm quite lucky because my siblings are close. Not all of them, but the ones that are close. But we fight heads together and we just think, okay, how can we help each other? And mental health has become very apparent in the last sort of 4 or 5 years of my life, whereas my parents' generation, they never knew what that really was about. Like let's take marriage for example. A lot of us, like from Asian or maybe traditional background, our parents would get told to get married because that's it. It's all about whether the community thing. If you don't get married, you know that Indian divorce rates are a lot lower, purely because it's based on judgment. Yeah. Now we're in London. Women have freedom, men have freedom. It's hard. I try to tell myself, it's hard. They just ask people in questions. I said, what? I'm happy for freedom. Yeah, I don't, who knows what she wants to say. But the situation sometimes is a bit too much. So mental health for me is not what my doctor tells me. It's more about a general feeling.
Yeah.
That's it. And if you've got like-minded people who feel the same, then you're onto something, right?
Yeah. Definitely. No, that was beautiful. Honestly, Rod, I completely understand where you're coming from in terms of there is exactly it's that feeling. David's slacking. He's gonna get taken off payroll. So, no, I completely understand. Especially like you said, a factor about cultural pressure is also something that can really affect our mental health as well. Like you said, from Asian, African background as well. We've had Patel, for those who have listened to some of our other episodes, he's actually put in a lot of emphasis on how much culture can affect you as an actual male yourself. Anybody else want to chip in? What is mental health to you?
I'm just wondering if we're seeing it the wrong way around, because mental health, sure, is about health, like health and fitness. So is what we're talking about, you know, when you're mentally unhealthy rather than when you're mentally healthy. You know, we might all go for a jog or something, some of us might anyway, or go for a run or whatever to get healthy physically. But are we doing those things to get healthy mentally? I mean, are we looking at it the wrong way? Because people talk about mental health as mental ill health, but we be talking about mental good health instead?
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. Yeah, because we don't talk about when you hear physical health, there's a lot more of a positive connotation to that than when you hear mental health. When you hear mental health, immediately your mind is drawn to worst case scenarios and someone's suffering from mental health. And people don't often praise someone's mental health regime or the way they go about things. Like it's normally, if someone's physically healthy, it's a lot easier to point those things out in an individual and hail them up for it.
Yeah, I mean, you might say that person's fit, but you wouldn't be talking about their mental health, would you? You wouldn't say, oh, that's a fit person.
Yeah, no, it's very true. It's very true.
Yeah, it is quite rare. It is quite rare for someone to compliment someone based on how they think. Like, oh, like not like raw, like your car looks nice or your like this and that looks nice. But you really ever hear anyone say, oh, like the way you think, like the way you thought about that, or you've got a positive mindset. Like that's quite rare. Yeah, you know what I mean.
To touch upon that, because obviously the physical thing you can see, but mentally you can't. And I feel like with the men's mental health piece, it's like when you're trying to marry the two, is if your men, for instance, won't be honest about how they're thinking mentally. So you can't really say someone's, oh, you look good mentally, because they're probably hiding anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's about like, obviously breaking that stigma to allow men to be able to, anyone to be able to just speak honestly about how they feel mentally and not be judged by it.
100%. And that's the thing. It's normally, I know a lot of you may be keeping up with pop culture and all. If you notice, like a lot of the celebrities that have come out nowadays saying about their mental health are the happiest ones. It's always the ones that hide behind everything. Just like you said, you don't see it. And that's where I think now there's been a lot more emphasis in the society that we now live in, which is perfect. Like, for example, you mentioned that you were going through a little bit of something yourself. But I guarantee you the people around you were like, oh, he's fine. He's completely fine. He's getting by. He's doing his thing. And I did the same thing. I think sometimes I go into a little bit of a shell of myself, but that's what we're here to do. We're here to break these stigmas, guys. And that's what's wonderful about this common goal that we have with us here. So in terms of that, why do you think, like going off David's point, why do we hide it like this? Why do we do that, guys? Why do we stay inside and be quiet? What's your interpretation?
I'm just going to jump on this one.
Yeah.
I think if you look back, right, as adults and looking back at kids, there was always kids who were loud in class or misbehaving in class, and you never really understood why that kid was always seeking attention or et cetera, et cetera. And it was recently one of my colleagues from work, he's like, the let's say the clown at work, like he's comical, he's the funny one. But then when he asked, like, that's his strongest core value of who he is. And then he was asked, why are you funny? Because that's the best mask to wear. Like, you know what I mean? So everyone's got different masks, which he showed to different people. And it is, as you said, like-minded. If you've got like-minded people, you can easily express how you actually feel. But if you don't, you're either gonna protect yourself or blend in. So it's always, I think mental health is a thing of survival of the fittest, but what fit is in that, say, concept is down to the individual. And I think what I would say to people is, if you can sit down in silence with your thoughts, that can say a lot about your mental health. Like, what are you constantly thinking about? And if you can't be present, that's when you're gonna do something to get away from being present. So I think that's where people wear masks. Because yeah, man, you only show what you want to show. That's the ability of being as humans, you know, like a dog will wiggle its tail if it doesn't want to wiggle its tail. Yeah. But as humans, we have the power to express our emotions. And I think growing up, the idea of being a man is like you repress those emotions. You don't actually show how you really feel, because people be like, why is this person, you know, acting in this sort of way? And yeah, so I think masks always the best thing, man. And then we just need to play Future, mask off.
Yeah, we've
No, I think we've got Hafsa over here with a hand up online. I don't know if it's a good moment to come in there, Hafsa.
Hi. Yeah, about being like why we hide it is because, can you hear me properly?
Yeah, we hear you. Subtitles and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't remember last time I saw her.
No, we went to school, by the way.
She was in our maths class, you know.
Hey, Hafsa.
Long time no see.
Yeah.
We had Mr. Savage from maths.
Hi.
Yeah, sorry, sorry to cut you off.
Sorry. It's okay. I think we hide it because we're afraid of being vulnerable in society. Like, we're afraid to be judged, and we think people might use that against us. I think that's why. Like, I experienced myself, like, I feel like I've pretended to be, like, strong and stuff in front of people when I have emotions, but, like, not expressing them because I'm scared that people would judge me or think that I'm not, I don't know, good enough, I guess. Yeah.
No, very true, actually. We actually did a little exercise in one of our episodes, which would be quite nice to see right now, in terms of, I would love for people to express what they thought with it. So we were all talking about certain words that are associated with us being a man. So like strong, rigid. Could maybe open up the panel to everybody. Think of a word. Let us know what you think and why that's associated with mental health and men's mental health. Anyone want to kick us off?
Sure.
Fire away, go ahead.
So man, like the first word that even when we researched it was strong, right? So that can easily lead into mental health issues and like lower self-esteem and problems of that nature, because when you say strong, you immediately assume the ability to carry any burden or to have a response for any situation. So that doesn't allow you the room to like see yourself in a type of way of like, okay, I'm actually struggling with this situation. I'm not too sure how to deal with it. It would be helpful if I could seek advice, whether that's friends, family, whatever. But I'm not going to do that because that's not manly. Like, it's not strong. It's not a strong attribute to go to someone else and ask for help, or it's not perceived as strong. So, yeah.
Hafsa, I'll be coming back to you because you did open the floodgates on this one. So I wanted to hear what your word is when you were saying that you do hide a lot as well. Anybody else? We had somebody over here.
You have fearful.
Oh, fearful.
Fearful is or fearless, whichever one you want to use. But it just goes with everything you do. Because there's some people where in order to be strong, you can be strong. But if you're strong and you're fearful, there's going to be instances when you're going to be like, oh, this person's weak because Strong usually is more physical. You can be physical. There's people that are big built, but mice comes, you know what I mean? Like, or dog comes, they're running around. So that's another word I'll throw.
Lovely stuff. We've got someone over here.
For me, it's like, you know, why do we sort of have these masks and these kind of acts as men? I think it's mostly in a way to impress women. So I'd also like to find out what there's a few, it's mostly male in the studio, not exclusively, but nearly.
Yeah.
But I would like to find out from the female perspective, you know, what does, I say man, what do you say? Do you know what I mean? So, you know, I want to find out what the girls think.
That's a very good point. So, ladies of Zoom, feel free to join in. Let us know exactly what your thoughts are.
Do we want to go to Rajan?
Anyone? All right, we'll go to Rajan quickly. Yeah. Oh, got someone.
Bella's got a hand up too, but Rajan, you come in first.
Yeah, sorry, I don't want to. I know the girls are going first and stuff like that. I feel so rude right now. But what I was trying to say is, I just want to ask you guys a question. You guys have known each other for 17 years. Now, I only know Rash. I don't really know any of the other guys, and he's similar to myself, i.e. he's an extrovert. Like, I feel I'm an extrovert. I don't have a lot of introvert friends. So when it comes to mental health, like how sometimes I find I get anxiety. So it's a Friday night, I want to go out, but I've slowly started learning to have some time to myself and not always be around people to validate my happiness and my existence. And that's taken quite a few years and a couple of sessions of counseling to just really be comfortable in your own skin. So my question to you would be, how have you guys been, has any of you like experienced a relationship, friendship, whatever it may be, with an introvert? And if that's the case, how have you been able to like kind of support each other?
You want to take it over?
That's a great question.
That's a very good question.
That is a good question.
First question is anyone who class themselves as an introvert?
Yeah, I'm an introvert. I say so. Would you say so?
I would say, hang on a second.
Yeah, so I was saying, yeah, I was sorry. Good question. Right, this is perfect. So what I wanted to do is give everybody, because everybody liked that question. Here's your time for you to think about how you wanted to answer that. We had the lady who has suggested that she just wanted to go on to her point. So if you could just let her have it. So could you, what's the name? Sorry, we have Isabella. So Isabella, if you could let us know a little trade secret what the lady think when they hear man.
Used to getting talked over by men all the time.
We're here to break stigmas, lads. It's not going well.
No, thanks for all being here and the stories and thought. Yeah, no, I was just going to say, like, I think that when you think of a man, one described well, would also agree that's of the word strong. So I didn't know if I hear an echo there. And yeah, no, I was just going to say that, I mean, from a women's perspective, I wouldn't say. I think it, to Mikey's point about guys showing a strong face, it feels like maybe more to show up amongst themselves rather than to impress women. But I would hope that, I don't know, guys can find like good girl friends, like just like who are girls who they can share like, you know, their emotional side more if they don't have any guy mates. And I encourage like loads of, you know, other girls and women to open that space for guys, because I think that's really important. Like I've got loads of guy mates and I always try to be there for them if I feel like they don't have another outlet for these sort of conversations and sharing feelings. So I think, yeah, definitely kind of use females as well for all of that.
Yeah. No, that's very true. Us as humans, we are social creatures. That's what separates us from everybody else in the actual chain of just life. And it's very true. I do agree with you. I think me personally, as someone who's grown up in a female household, which I've mentioned quite a few times in the episode, I feel like I'm a lot more open with my emotion because I've had that support system. I've had that sort of, if I need something, no matter what it is, I can literally call my mom and they will get frustrated more when I don't actually say anything. That's the worst part. And I think a lot of us as men don't do that. Do you guys feel like that's the thing as well? Do you feel like having a female who you can possibly open up to, it kind of helps you out in terms of your mental health battles? Or any person in general?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah?
I'd say so, yeah. I'd say 100%. Now, I want to make a point that you just got to be honest with yourself. So, you know, going back to the question we asked, like a word that associates with like being a man, I would say like let's say honesty. Like you got to kind of be honest with yourself. Now, the thing is that one of the things that kind of helped me out with my mental health a little bit was when you realize that you're a friend to your friend, you're a boyfriend to your girlfriend, you're a child to your mom, you know, you're a worker at your workplace. But then, like, have you ever asked yourself, like, who are you to yourself? You know what I mean? And then when I asked myself that, it made me really, you know, it made me really want to kind of sit back and really analyze myself a lot more, because like we only know what we know. And like when you've been conditioned for your whole life to think a certain way, get told by your parents, go to school, do this, do that, you know, like we feel like we have to impress other people. But then like that's kind of like how we can if we take the time to kind of work on ourselves a bit more, think about like what we want, and like work on it, you know, that's very helpful towards our mental health. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Just to
go on.
To the point.
Is it right?
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
What he was talking about, introvert, extrovert.
Yeah.
I would say like maybe before the pandemic, I would have described myself more of a extrovert. I felt like, you know, like I knew a lot of people, so I used to, you know, have motives to go to here and there. But I guess, you know, with the pandemic, I think everyone was forced to kind of sit back and actually be with their own company or thoughts. And I mean, I was quite vocal in our podcast when we had obviously our episodes. Obviously, over the pandemic, I went through some, like, obviously, job change, for example, where I left my previous job just at the start of the pandemic. So I was working in a job that I didn't really want to be in. But, you know, I was, again, this is completely opposite to what I was, you know, from the extrovert that I thought I was to becoming more of an introvert, more of being alone, confined. I mean, I was quite lucky because obviously I lived with housemates. So I can't imagine what someone living by themselves would have felt. However, I think I realized how much I didn't know about myself, maybe, kind of going to what Cage mentioned earlier, and being able to actually sit back and analyze, like, why am I like this? Or I don't know. I mean, these questions automatically come up in your head anyway. And I think mental health is when you get to a point where those questions get too much and you're unable to cope with the amount of thoughts going in your head. It's just ongoing. So, I mean, you know, I felt like doing things such as physical exercise probably helped. But it was a self battle that I went through, and I feel like I came out of it stronger. And I'm sure everyone would probably
yes. Yeah, that's it.
Questioning why you're doing something. What is it that you actually want to get out of it, and whether that is good. I mean, if it's like you want to be a certain person because you want to impress people in a certain way, or do you want to be a certain person because you feel good being that person? And I think you have to question your own goals and see what you're happy with then. I have to say that the group that I see around me is great. Of another group, I'm part of a men's club, and they're basically over 50s sort of thing. And the problems that come with that age, and I don't want to be ageist about it anyway, are different. I mean, we're talking about things like retirement rather than jobs. We're talking things about losing partners rather than being on your own. My parents have been dead so long, I can't remember what it's like to have parents. So, and also things like the class system comes into it as well, because I was brought up never really, I was never earmarked for being the next Prime Minister, let's put it that way. And my education and my aspirations and my expectations reflected that. But I always had unreasonable goals for myself that I was never ever going to fulfill. And it's bringing those into focus and seeing what I can achieve and what I'm happy to achieve and being comfortable in myself. That kind of creates a self-esteem. That you're actually worth it, that, you know, you're not going to get to the end of your life and be a complete washout. You know, it's a marathon. You came 556. Well, that's okay. There are billions running. You know, so you don't put that emphasis on trying to achieve too much, or what you want to achieve, and having the confidence to go through with it as well.
That's a great.
That was
nice.
David, what's going on?
I was gonna say, interesting. You said you think you're now like an introvert, Abel. But my question is, are you really an introvert or are you like an omnivert? Because everyone always talks about introvert, extrovert, but then they forget there's a middle line in everything. So omnivert people are people that do like to be at home by themselves, but people that also like to be outdoors. So it goes to say it's easy to put yourself in a bracket, but when you're in maths, I always think like, you know, when you draw the circle, the Venn diagram, there's always going to be a middle section, but it depends on what qualities you're circling around where you land. So you will always shift. And if you're someone that's always going to shift, I would have said probably omnivert, because you've got both traits. But there's some people who are introvert, like, because I went Queen Mary University, medical engineering. A lot of them were introverts.
That's it, yeah, I can imagine. Like, I can imagine.
You know, like, you're doing a group project, but it's like you can't do a group project because they just don't know how to communicate. They just know how to read a book and get the grades. And that's the part of like mental health isn't to do with mental capacity, how smart you are. It's also to do with life experiences, and that's what people tend to not focus on or reflect. I'm a person who always looks back at my past, so that's just my advice, just to look back at your past and your present and focus on your future. But yeah, man.
Yeah. You see that someone works in spoken word, isn't it? No, I love that. I love it. Exactly. I know it does, doesn't it? Yeah. Omnivert. I normally just say antisocial extrovert, but I understand exactly where you're coming from.
I didn't even know there was such words, you know.
Yeah. We only know what we know.
That's the only, you know what I'm saying?
So,
bro, for real.
Actually, when I went to university as a mature student, we'd have lectures and we'd have classes about the lectures. And I lived through the Thatcher era. I worked almost through the Thatcher era. And when I went to university, they were saying things like Margaret Thatcher, and you had the younger people there would sit down and take this all down. And you had one or two mature students there that actually lived for it. And we were like, nah. You're wrong.
Yeah.
You're wrong. And that's what actually sparked the debate in the thing. So when you actually live through something, you have more of an interest in the way it comes out. You know? So yeah, people are interested nowadays, especially because it's all about, especially education, it's all about getting your grades and that you're paying for it. You've got in them days it was about learning stuff, and perhaps that's the difference. You know, we're all trying to do a business, or we're all trying to get ideas to push forward, but we're not actually learning the basics of life from each other, as it were.
Do you feel like our social skills is what's kind of lacking nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, I have a job that's to do with residents, and I haven't got a job. My job is to go in and talk to people. It's not a job. I mean, that's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Especially people, I mean, I live on a housing estate. They live on a housing estate. I know it's like the services are bad, and we talk about it. And that's my job. So it's a pleasure.
Yeah, no, it's very true. Nowadays, like you're saying, a lot of us in this room and probably on the chat as well, our pleasure is now a job. That is very, very true. We've been that side of us has been taken away from us. Like I always say to myself, especially after lockdown and all these bits, I felt like we lost our social a social ability as much. Because even like, for example, Raja, you were talking about dating. Nowadays, it's so hard to be so organic about that. It's all about Tinder. It's all about this. It's all about that. And that's not good for us as an actual human ourselves. So is there, in terms of that, there's obviously certain factors such as we have suicide rates. 78% of most suicides is normally men. And I think that's because, like we said, it's that introvert factor. We don't speak to each other. We don't really do too much of that. So in terms of everybody else on Zoom, what's your thoughts about the whole introvert, extrovert debate? Do you have anything to say for us?
There was a point on...
Yeah, it was actually a separate point, but yeah, Well, yeah, with the extrovert introvert thing, I thought it was where you get your energy from. So like if you're an extrovert, you tend to vibe off being in crowds, and like that's what energizes you. And an introvert is someone who kind of restores their energy when they're alone. And then the flip side for the other term. But yeah, and then that stat that you just raised about males being actually like the highest proportion of suicide, and it tends to be kind of the middle to older age, doesn't it? And I mean, I know a family friend who's, the dad or like the husband just one day, hung himself in the garage or something. And I think you hear about those cases quite a lot, where it's a man with a family and wife and kids and from the outside, and nobody expected it at all. And I think that maybe represents, and obviously there's loads of different factors, with job and different generations. So it's, I mean, they wouldn't have been sitting around a table like you guys are now speaking about it, right? When they were at that age. But, I think, that just shows how bad things can get silently and accumulate. So I think, and then when we were talking about strength earlier, sometimes there's maybe a redefinition of that, to say like, actually, it is a strength to know when you're struggling, and it is a strength to know your weaknesses and your triggers, and to know when you need to talk to someone before it's too late. But yeah, cases like that, and that's a stat, like you mentioned, like it's quite shocking. And I wonder, hopefully that doesn't continue and like decreases from now on.
Sorry, Margot? Someone just joining us from behind the camera.
Hello.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering, because there's a point on the chat which is about not being able maybe to cry or like show weakness in public, and I kind of wonder whether, because we're talking about masculinity, I mean, is masculinity like connected to being a straight male, or what do people think about that? Because I sometimes feel like conversation about masculinity is like, it's a straight conversation. But and what are the alternatives? What that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Anyone want to take over before I say too much? Because I feel like I may be saying too much.
There's another point from Rajan on the chat, hand up.
It's a great point. A lot of people do think masculinity is based, or confidence, not success, but just like drive is based on the male, and that's so incorrect. Like, again, being with 4 older sisters, like the eldest one, she's got big drive. She's in a successful job. She's been through hardship herself, like anybody else has. I think it's the case of really understanding to what severity do we class struggles, to what severity do we class progress. Same with success. You can only do it with what's around you, right? So going back to the show, this is great because I don't know anybody here apart from Rash. But even then, so I just about know the guy. I found him on the street and he was like, "Yo, what's going on?" His personality, do you know what? He grew to me. I was like, he's a good guy. But ultimately, it's about who you can surround yourself with. There's like a few books I've been reading. One of them's called How to Be Alone. I'm not sponsoring it, by the way, but trust me, please. It's like Neil Buchanan from Art Attack. Here's one I made earlier. It's one called The Magic of Thinking Big. And it's basically one part of it I took was surround yourself with 5 successful people and 5 people that aren't successful. Now, these could be anybody in your life, existing or not. And when I realized who was successful, it opened up my eyes to what life could really offer me. And the people that weren't successful, some friends and so forth, I had to let go because they're like an anchor to my boat. But ultimately, when it comes to success and masculinity, it's definitely not based around men. It's more of a universal thing. I think it's more of a case of society has that kind of impregnated our minds to think that it has to be men. And I disagree with it. So, yeah, women definitely have a lot more empowerment. And, you know, nowadays they're recognizing in companies, you know, you see those census about female diversity and female getting promoted in jobs and so forth. Like, it's a good thing. Like, they should be. And just because you're a male or a female should not determine your success or your ability to you know, succeed. Personally.
Very, very true. Sorry.
No, I just wanted to just like sort of add to Rajan's point, because you mentioned society and to what extent. I want to throw this out to everybody, but especially people who have had experience of mental health issues. Like, how much is society to blame for this? You know, their expectations of what a man should be. Is it actually coming from inside your head, or is it coming from outside? And that, I think that's a really good point that Rajan's made there.
I May I?
Yeah, feel free to open panel.
From what I've experienced in my life with mental health, you know, we're like myself, I'm 44 now. We're all older guys who can like relate with mental health, and we've been able to say, yo, I've got a problem. Yeah. But what about the young kids? Yeah. What about all the youngsters that are in jail? Yeah. That are on drugs. Yeah. That are doing madness out there because it's mental health. Do you understand? Otherwise, they'd be more rational or they'd listen. They can't deal with certain things. And I'll tell you why I say this, because that was me. Yeah. You know, when I was a youngster, I nearly ended up with a life sentence. Yeah. Because of my mental health. Yeah. Because I couldn't deal with drug addiction. I was on drugs. I was off drugs. I didn't want, you know, and then money problems, finances, business, you know, I couldn't cope with it. I didn't educate myself. You know, today, what's very important is reaching out to the youngers, yeah, making sure there's some foundation for them knowing, yeah, that we, yeah, know what we're talking about. We've been through it ourselves and we're here to maybe support them, help them, be ambassadors, you know what I mean, for mental health and really, you know, go out there and try and help these people, because there's people every day, they want to top themselves, they want to kill themselves. There's people going to kill themselves tonight, yeah, right, every night, yeah, because of mental health. Okay, it's really, really affected me. I'm coming back. Yeah, I'm lucky to be alive today, right?
Yeah.
But I would like to get involved with this more so because there's not enough. There's not enough people saying, yo, you know, young people, older people, people like ourselves, women even, whatever, you know, people that are, you know, transgender, you know, people like all sorts of people are going through it. Yeah. If we can build a platform or link up and, you know, we can do something about it, man. Yeah. We can help each other.
On that point, in terms of, like you're saying, the younger children at the moment. Oh, wow, you're on board today. I don't push the boy right now. So it's a very good point that you've raised there in terms of the young children. Adding on to collaborating your point and Mikey's point, do you feel like society is having a very negative factor on the younger generation in terms of what they're doing? Like the fact that we're having the question of, is masculinity a straight thing? We shouldn't be having that question. We shouldn't be having that. And that's what society has taught us. How do you think society can do better, and what do you think they're doing wrong?
Yeah, well, if I may just jump back in again, you know, at the end of the day, it's got nothing to do with masculinity. Yeah, we're little kids, we're youngsters growing up in troubled families or society, or we're social media now. You know, when you're flicking through it, you're like, you know, you're phased out. You're like, you know, it's like hypnotized, didn't you? You're just on that. You're not coming off. You come get your dinner, son. Come and do this. You're not doing it. Do you know what I mean? These are causing mental health problems. And then you've got all this stuff that parents can't always monitor. Kids are being exposed to too much these days. Yeah. And then we're talking about kids, sex education. Come on. This, you know, and then we've got lockdowns, and then we've got MPs and police doing what they like, but we can't do it. You know, and there's going to be, you know, confrontation, there's going to be problems. People are going to brack out, you know? So I think it's really important to take it back to, yes, we're older people today. Yeah, we've been through so much, but like the youngsters are our future. You get it? And they're the ones that we want to reach out to. And you know what? In actual fact, that's the cure. Do you understand? Help another brother, another sister, and that will help you. Yeah?
Yeah.
That's it. That is very straight fact. Anybody else got a point on society? Anyone on Zoom? Anyone? Prashan's got his hand up. Go on, Raj.
Sorry, it's me again.
No, go ahead.
So the gentleman, I forgot, I don't know your name, sorry, the one that was just speaking now, the guest.
I wish you, mate.
Hey, how you doing? You're I just want to actually ask you a question, that's okay. I know you mentioned that you had to educate yourself and so forth, and you've been through turmoil. What was it that actually allowed you to recognize it and then act upon it?
I hit the floor. And now it was suicide, die, jail, whatever, or fix up. Now I've got 4 children. Yeah. I love them to bits. Yeah. And, you know, in order to be part of their life, in order for me to be this productive person again, I needed to put the anger aside, put the frustration aside, you know, and just bit by bit, try and deal with it. I'm suffering today, my friend. I suffer from mental health problems every day, but I work on it. you know what I mean? And this is what I advise everyone to do. Anyone that's got mental health problems, recognize it and try and deal with it on a daily basis like we do as addicts, yeah? Work on it like a daily thing, do you know what I mean? Because if we don't, we're going to slip up, man. And one day, emotions, feelings are going to just be too much. Someone's going to take pills, drink, whatever. It can happen, man. Yeah, so the more we talk about it, the more I think it dilutes it, do you know what I mean? And people can feel like, yeah, man, I've been through this, yeah, look, don't worry about it, yeah? You know, I think there needs to be a bit more. There's too much stigma and too much putting people down about illness.
And that's the thing. I appreciate that because one of my close friends, he is depressed and he's depressed and manic. And unfortunately, his mother passed away. His dad remarried, and the mother-in-law, or the stepmom, should I say, wasn't really, paying as much attention after having new children. So as a friend, because I've never been in a depressive, I mean, I'm going to be careful what I say because depression, there's so many severities to it. But I felt it's got to a point where it hasn't overtaken me. But how can I support my friend who's depressed because I've never experienced what he's going through? So I can only ask people who have been through certain situations where they felt so low and they can pick themselves up. Like, do you have any advice at all?
Advice, look, what I can say is I've also been through depression, yeah, and I'm still going through depression, right? Yeah. But every day is a day that I push myself. It's like, for example, I have, I lost my kids, yeah, so I'm not even allowed to see my sons. There's nothing wrong with me, yeah, but I'm not allowed to see my kids, yeah, because, things have been said about me, like, oh, you're a bad dad or you've been violent, yeah, and this is to do with divorce, yeah. I say it how it is, you know why? Because it helps me today. Do you understand? It all helps me, yeah. And if there's anything, if there's something that I can say to you about depression, it's just that be there, like be that ear for him, man, and just if you can, check up on him, or even just let him know that you're there for him, because he will get better as long as he's got the right people around him and he's doing things in the day. We do need to work on it ourselves as that depressive person and stuff like that. We do really need to just support the guy.
All right.
Lovely.
Thank you, Ricky. Appreciate it. Thank you, man.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's it.
Stuff happening on the Zoom.
Yeah, that's it. All right, sir.
I just wanted to say as well, on that, just one word, just belief. I feel like believing in people, believing, as you say, that they will recover. They can recover, they will recover. So important.
100%. Sorry, go ahead, Hafsa.
Hafsa.
Yes.
You're new.
That's it.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, much better. There we go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So social media is like having a huge effect on young people now. Like people are always on their phones, young people especially, and they're constantly seeing these pictures of how they should be. And I feel like maybe in schools they should introduce systems in which they teach a bit more about how to avoid falling into like depression or like anxiety or like being conscious about self-image. And that would help, I think. Because this is a new thing and it's like in everyone's lives now and you can't avoid it. So it's better to learn how to tackle that.
Yeah. That's a lovely point. I've always said to the boys when we were planning certain episodes that social media is very much a double-edged sword. It's the most powerful, most destructive thing that we've ever kind of created. Powerful, but in a good way, but also powerful in a bad way. So what's your interpretation in terms of going back to one point? I'm now going to start referring back to the episodes that we've done, which is one of the main episodes was men's insecurities.
Just before you go on.
Oh, sorry.
Since we were talking about suicide and society, I feel like I should mention this person for any of the older audience or participants. There was a guy on Instagram. His name was Deep Singh. I don't know if you guys know. He was struggling with his mental health, and he basically wrote his suicide note on Instagram and disappeared. I think his friends were trying to find him, couldn't find him, and in the end, we'll see if they found him, and he was passed away. But he seemed from the note that he left, he seemed like the most positive person, and I was just trying to picture what he must be feeling or thinking for him to make up his mind to reach to where he has been. And in the note, he even said, like, thank you for everyone that's reached out, that helped me. It's been nothing but, you know, positive, etc. But how does someone reach a point where they've given up and they've left a note to say that I'm done, and I'm just, that made a big impact on me. I don't know, obviously, I'm sure anyone else with social media may have seen it.
It's mad, bro. I was gonna say, I personally feel sometimes there is no real difference between what social media and actual life. Like I say, you choose to show people what you want to show them. So people don't understand how much control you have. You can control what you can control. So there's certain emotions that you can't control, but you can control how people see you when you're going through that stressful situation. So if we're talking about you being the quote unquote man of the house, you're gonna take on that label and always show that side. So you never want to show someone else that you're not the man of the house, so you're going through struggles. So I think it's social media, you can show people your highlights, like you go on holiday, oh this, you just, you know, but it's the same thing with life. And I think the fundamental thing that people need to start doing is communicating. And I always say, it goes to, like, you're talking about dating, right? When now with the whole dating apps, I can have, if you have a conversation with someone on a dating app and you go, this conversation is dead, I'm not wasting my time. That can be the same in person. You can speak to someone and just think, this conversation is not going anywhere. But you haven't probably taken the time as to why is this person not opening up, or is, you know, like, why do they only use certain words? And it's the same as mine. You just go, wagwan. You saying, I'm good. All right, cool. Say no more. He said it's good. That's it. But you've never actually said, are you really good? Like, what? Yeah. Define good. What's good? Like, what exactly in your life? What happened today that's good? So I think in all relationships, there's communication. And I feel creating spaces where people feel safe to have those conversations. That's where you actually understand what the main problem is for someone else, because your problem is not the same as someone else. Twins could have completely different problems, but they've had the same upbringing, you know what I mean? So I think, yeah, first thing is just having a conversation about it. So this is why this platform itself is important.
That's why we're here. Yeah.
I think it's important. Wonderful follow-up question when you say that somebody, are you all right? Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, but are you all right?
Yeah. Being honest, in this room, how scary is that question sometimes? Yeah,
it's, like, it's an invitation to sort of, what, am I going to?
Yeah, exactly.
It is a wonderful question.
100%.
Because we do demonstrate science. Yeah. And there's no in depth. So the thing about generational things, speaking as an older person, is that, yeah, you know, we do need to look after younger people. You need to get rid of that bravado thing. I think it's, as I've got older, as I've got more confident, it's fun to challenge that kind of thing. When I got married, a few days later, I put a picture on Facebook of me in my wife's wedding dress. You know what I mean? I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny. Yeah. And I don't really care what you know, it just seemed to be a lot. So I'm not saying anything about my sexuality. I said, look, I'm in wedding dress. So yeah, we need to get it so that young people can have that space to lighten up, realise that the problems they face have all been faced before. No such thing as an original problem. All been faced before. People have either succumbed to them or they got through them. Either way, you know, people need space and safety to discuss that. That's why I think your group's wonderful. You know,
thank you.
Sorry, mate.
Yeah, no, you go for it.
Sorry to cut in, but like, it just made me think, like, it's not always as easy as that. Like, we're here talking, where, you know, we've made it easy for ourselves. Then you got the guys, you know, we're talking just about a minority, let's say, the guys that haven't educated themselves as well. They've had a abrupt family, you know, like a broken family, this, that, and the other. They're on road, yeah, and like they're looking up to these daddies and uncles, and you know, who are giving them whatever, supposedly looking after them, yeah. And you know, slowly but surely, they're getting damaged. You know what I mean? They're getting damaged. They're either selling drugs, or they're using drugs, or they're getting arrested. They're getting beat down. They're getting bullied. You know, they're getting told to hold this, hold that. You know, so many different things, you know, happening out here. But that's where I come from. Yeah, I come from that kind of background. So that's why it's so thingy to me. It's very, like, you know, I feel very strongly about it. And I do think the more people can reach out to be the youngsters, let it be through schools, let it be through centers, youth clubs, yeah? You know, kids are sharp, yeah? They know people, yeah? They can see an idiot and know someone that's been through some real shit in their life and say, yo, mate, it's really good to hear what you said, and I go through this, that, and just be able to like channel them to, you know, some, you know, an organization, you know, or something that you guys are doing actively, you know, oh, we're going on a trip next week to Lake District or somewhere, you come, you know, maybe get some fun, you know, it's funded, or, you know, there's a lot of people out there that can do really, really well out there, man, and they've got a life ahead of them, yeah, but yet they've got obstacles, yeah, and I believe, you know, people like us that have been through it, yeah, can help these people if we choose to, and if we're given that opportunity to.
Right, just want to add a couple of points, and then there's also comments from Instagram.
Yeah, we've got Instagram. We got someone waiting on Zoom as well, so it's like Argos getting the queue. Go on.
I think it's what everyone's saying as well. I think it's important to understand that there's different triggers at different age groups. Yeah. Of course, like for us, we know what our triggers are because we're all the same age group. But for younger people, might be social media is more of a factor. But for older men, like you're saying, people like separated, parents are passed away, or they're going through a divorce. So it's important to understand the triggers amongst your like group peers as well, because I think that helps to like, negate the problem and to talk to each other. And just on the two questions that we had, so the first one was someone said, I believe most men think it's bad to cry, and it shows that they're weak. And have to be honest, that was something even as a woman I struggled with. So that was one of them. And then another one was being a teacher, I can confirm all schools have to have a lead that deals with mental health, and a new curriculum we will put into place that helps with this and will help to raise issues. So I think people are understanding the problems that we're going through, and obviously they're trying to put processes in place, maybe to be argued if it's happening fast enough or not. But I think now, post-pandemic as well, I do think like it's more talked about, which is good, and because we need to open up the door for it to happen. So yeah,
I think a lot of people want to understand like what's going through people's minds nowadays in the society that we do live in, because we now see that we're post-war times in terms of there's not as much violent crime, it's more of a mental battle. That's what a lot of us are going through. Exactly, it's shifted a lot. Just going off on that point, is there any more points from Zoom, and then we'll open it up again?
Yeah, I mean, there's a point from Bella, but I just want to, John's left, one of the Johns has left us. So I just want to say to people, if you are going to leave, just give us a final thought before you go. But there's a point from Bella here, and I think there's a lot of people here online that haven't spoken, so maybe we should encourage them to get their perspectives. And there's stuff happening on Instagram as well, so maybe we need to like key those people in too. But anyway, over to you, Bella, first.
Yeah, I was just going to say earlier to, I think was it Raj's point about if you've got a friend with depression and you know that, and how can you help them? Again, there's something, you know, obviously we have nowadays that older generations don't, and, you know, on Instagram and just all the social media, and obviously there's celebrities talking about taking mental health breaks. But there was one account I'll just recommend called like Real Depression Project. And I know it sounds really silly, but I mean, I used it with one of my friends, she didn't actually make it, but then her brother and mother, like afterwards, like they're struggling. So it's like when I check in with her twin brother and he's like, no, I'm really struggling, I feel like shit. And it's like, we're not conditioned to have these conversations, because usually like, you know, everyone's putting on a face, and like the mask, like we mentioned, everyone's having fun, having a good time. But then if someone does hit you with that and does give you a signal indication that they are really struggling, so yeah, I know it sounds silly, but there's this account which I would recommend to actually, I'll drop it in the chat, but it literally gives you like phrases to try and use, because I don't know about you, but for me, like I just sometimes wouldn't even know what to say. But yeah, I'll drop it in the chat.
No, that's
helpful.
Thank you very much for that, actually. I was actually going to ask you on your point, just while you're here, while you're here, just looking at one of the comments I actually saw on Zoom, which is coming from Charlie Davis, who's just saying, some people, they just want to be able to talk without judgment, without being able to be like, oh, if I say something to you, I'm going to feel any sort of type of way. Shout out to our episode about men's insecurities, guys. Make sure you have a listen. Is that something you guys think that's what we suffer from as well, in terms of when we're going through something, we're scared about what someone will perceive of that? Is that something that you think? Sorry, go, Margot.
Judgment is a really big thing. And just touching on what you said a little while back now, sometimes people, particularly those who are really close to you, like your family and stuff, I mean, okay, you can choose your friends and all that kind of stuff, but your family will still have impact on how you feel and your self-worth and that kind of stuff and what's acceptable. And before you kind of zoom out to a bigger society, your family unit is like your nearest thing. And I think sometimes if you don't get that support from your family, it just gets really hard. You can't get past that barrier. And I think it's just the acceptance from family is just such a big thing. But for instance, my family, even though we do have mental health situation, it's been kind of running in my family since forever, we don't really talk about it. And actually one time when me and my mum managed to kind of, I felt like in that conversation, I almost got like a window into her. When I said, oh, I think I'm depressed, she was like, oh my God, let me tell you about depression. I was like, okay, cool. But I could really see that she really wanted to share that with somebody who doesn't just say, oh, you're just like a bit mental, like whatever, mate. And people always kind of like patronized her about it. And she was like, no, listen, you have to do this, this, and this. I know how I feel because blah, blah. And in the end, I was fine, but it's just that moment of connection. I realized how important it was for her because it was just silenced. That part of her was just silenced. But yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, lovely. Sorry, Mike, I think Michael would just want to jump in.
Sort of like just on the listening point, because I feel like, it's almost as if, and I think other people will concur with me about this, is like you have all these feelings, you've got problems, but it's not like you can go, oh, right, this is what's wrong with me. I mean, I was talking to a guy actually invited tonight who had anxiety, but it took him 2 years to realize that he had anxiety, to realize that was what was, what was actually stopping him from doing what he wanted to do. And I think sometimes just being an ear and listening lets people kind of set it out on the table so they can actually work out for themselves what's going wrong a little bit and actually, open it up a little bit rather than it all being kind of really intense in their head.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's very, very good point. David, come on, David. Come on, David.
Someone to just be like, are you all right? And then ask that question because they're looking for the release.
That's
it. They want someone to ask that trigger first. Because you're not just going to walk up to someone and be like, I'm going through all this. It's not going to work. So I think they're just looking for that trigger to have that release.
Yeah.
That's what I think anyway.
Because I think like you said about eventually, you can't just hold everything in. There's going to be a breaking point. And if someone just comes and just gives you a little warm hug, a little surface for you to have your monologue, have something to say. Like I always say myself, in terms of when you're having maybe with a disagreement with someone, anything like that, there's two types of understanding. There's a listening to react and there's a listening to understand. And I always think that us as people, we should do listening to understand. No matter what's going on with someone, just sit down. Is everything okay? This is your moment to utilize me. £10 an hour. Utilize this. Anybody else? Have you got anything from Instagram on that point? Because it's a very, 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 very nice point, and I think we're going in the right direction. And from YouTube, anyone else? Isabella, I actually wanted to ask you, as you said yourself, when you mentioned that page, did you feel as though when somebody just came to you and just listened, how much pressure did that take off you? How much did that alleviate off of your shoulders?
Yeah, a lot. It was very, very helpful. Because I would never have come up with those statements as well. Because I think your immediate or the instinctive reaction is always, as someone mentioned earlier, maybe, if we haven't maybe had the same experience or we've never felt the same way, it's like you can only ever speak from your own story. So when someone presents you with something and you intend to help, you don't know how, I found that these kind of pages or these sites, because even if you go on like Mind or like these other websites, I don't know if you find that they tend to be for you to support yourself. There's not that much about how to support each other and friends and loved ones. And I think I'd like to see that increase more, because then obviously it just, the world goes round and it spreads, right? Because we can't rely on the like public services huge waiting lists for mental health services, as you know, and like local councils. So I think like advice about how to help each other would be great. I found that was really helpful, and would recommend.
Just a quick question to everybody on the panel. In terms of myself, just a personal story. You boys know about this. When I was in university, I went through a very hard mental health battle, like a very, very hard one, to the point where I literally did 2 weeks where I literally just sat in the house. My housemates were going shopping for me, and it was affecting me so much. And then I found out universities, they have therapists. That's something I realized that was around. And I didn't know that as a student. And I think none of us probably knew that when you were in university. So I went there and I utilized it. And then obviously after doing some research, found that honestly, about 20% of men use therapists. Why is it we avoid that? When we have this avenue, do you think, like Isabella said, that there's like a waiting list whenever you want to utilize this? Why is that we don't use it ourselves?
We weren't told. Oh, sorry, go. Like we just weren't told. It goes back to my point about you only know what you know. Yeah, like we weren't told, like, for real. I mean, exactly, yeah, but we just weren't educated. So, and hence why a lot of people, they don't know how to handle when they're feeling a certain way, or like when they're going through a certain situation, whether it be financial or emotional, or like going through a breakup or having a dispute with their friend. Like, we just don't know. So they got to the universities that are doing that, but also even some workplaces are doing it as well. So I work within HR in my company, right? So that we have to deal with people, right? And I realize that from a business standpoint, where you actually where you actually start listening to people and give people the option to have someone to speak to, which would be us. People will be better for the workplace because they'll feel more excited to want to come to work. And I guess that is one big thing about a big factor in mental health. Like, a lot of people don't understand why they come to work, or a lot of people just don't want to come to work because they feel like they have to. You know what I mean? But then, like, with us making it feel like work's an exciting place to be, or education, university or school's an exciting place to be, it makes them feel better about it, and it's just a good feeling. You know what I mean? Yeah.
They definitely, workplaces are taking it more seriously, and I think it's because more pressure is being like levied on them. But like, we have mental health first aiders at work as well as like normal first aiders. So having a mental health first aid is obviously completely different, and that helps like people having that mental health problem. You can go straight to them. It's like a confidential conversation, and you talk to them about it. So I think those kind of things definitely help. But going back to your thing, saying why don't only 20% of men go have therapy? So I think it's like two things. I think first, they think if you go for therapy, you've admitted defeat. Like, I've defeated myself. Like, I've got to this point, I need therapy. But it shouldn't be seen as it's a solution. It should be seen as something that can help you get out of your struggles, because that's how I think people see it. And secondly, I think there's this whole embarrassment around it as well. People don't want to be associated with going to therapy, which I think is also wrong.
Yeah, I went to therapy when I was at university. It was my first kind of encounter with it. And I had a prison episode or whatever, and I went back, and a lot of it felt like, well, everyone's got problems. I don't want to come up and whinge to you. I mean, we've all got things in our lives that are not great. So I'm sitting here just whinging about it, and it's not. And the funny thing was that the guy, his name was John Edge. I'll never forget this. Edge really made me laugh. The funny thing was, he said to me, "Oh, right, okay. We've got you once a month now. No, right. So it's going to be twice a week from now on." And I went out and I spoke to him. And I thought, Christ, it's got to be serious. There must be something wrong here. And that's when I started thinking about my behaviour and what had actually triggered it. And I thought, yeah, it's quite strange, actually. So then I started taking myself seriously and what I was thinking seriously, whereas I thought nobody would care anyway. But the counsellor did care and he felt that I should be going more often, and that gave it a sense of priority in my life.
No, that's good. That's good. I think, yeah, like you said, it's accountability, understanding what's going on inside, and then just being able to try and address that. That's very, very good.
I think just obviously to add to your point about why only 20% go to therapists. I mean, like talking from my experience, I wouldn't, or I probably would, but in the past I wouldn't have gone to a therapist because I feel like if I can't speak to my friends about it, why would I speak to a stranger about it? So it's that played up in your head. And then I sometimes feel like therapists, because they're professionals, it's more of a tick boxing exercise. So they'll ask you how are you, just to then try and pick.
And how do you feel about that?
Yeah. Whereas, like, I don't feel like it's a genuine thing.
They start writing stuff. You're like, whoa, what's going on?
I know. I feel like I want you to, like, just So I feel like it's that element of like opening up to a stranger. If you can't do it with your mates, why would you do it with a stranger? And it's I don't know, for me, I'd probably rather open up with someone close to me than a therapist, because they know you more, so they can kind of understand what you're saying and try and help you. Whereas I feel like therapists are more, just tick box.
You can flip that. Someone might not feel comfortable and they want to talk to a stranger because they don't want someone close to know about their problems, for example, and have an objective view of it. So I guess it's both ways, but yeah.
But I always say that everyone needs therapy, or speak to a therapist. I've always felt that way. I realized this when I was young. I used to watch My Wife and Kids. If you see My Wife and Kids, 100%. Michael Kyle always goes to relationship therapy. You know, he doesn't want to, but his wife forces him, and then they would then have arguments about it. And at the end of the show, what they had learned through that therapy gets applied and helps the situation. So it was always like there wasn't a problem to begin with, but going to therapy raised the problem, and then it highlights the problem that you're having. So that's why I always thought therapy is for, to show you hidden problems, because you might be thinking, oh, this is the main problem. But the more you talk about it, you realize it stems off from way back. And that's when you start to unpack where you need to improve on. It might be your relationship with this person is bad because you actually have a bad relationship with another person. So until you solve your relationship with the first person, it's gonna knock on effect on the other one. So I think that's why therapy is key. But for me, it's like, I never knew therapy was free. You know what I mean? So I'm just like,
I didn't know.
Well, I mean,
is it?
Wait,
university is not free.
No, university is, but not like.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, because therapy is not free. Like, if people go in university and therapy is free university,
you would use it.
You would use it. Exactly. But therapy is money. That's all I hear. And I'm like, everyone who does therapy never looks poor. You know, so I'm just saying.
So we got Ian, and then we got one more on Zoom. No, sorry.
At my university, I had something called Nightlife, which was non-directed therapy, where you would just basically ears. Obviously, younger people, cheap alcohol, pressure of exams, being away from your family for the first time. These are all things that lead people to depression and anxiety. So, and they just had a little flat where people go and talk, and it was always self-driven. People take their own advice. People pretend to listen to other people, but we only listen to people that agree with what we're going to do anyway. That's how I did the training for a little while, and it's all about listening.
That's it. Goes back to that point that we as humans are social creatures, like we said. It just literally is all about listening and just being a sponge at the end of the day. We've got Nia just about to jump off. So Nia, maybe could you give us a final thought? Yeah, Nia?
Can also be in the chat if you don't want to come on.
Yeah, feel free. Yeah, if you don't want to, there's no pressure here.
You can also write something in the chat and we'll read it out for.
Yeah. Do you want to take this off?
I just want to ask, do you guys think there's stigma in the ethnic minority community about therapy? And also, should there be a more varied therapeutic experience? I mean, I like the idea of the gentleman over there mentioned. And I also, maybe even something we spoke about on our podcast, something as simple as going for a drink with a mate in a social setting. And this, I think this is perfect, where people come and speak about their experience, because a lot of times people don't want to speak about their experience when it comes to mental health. And I think when someone does speak up, it's like, oh, okay, I relate to what that person is saying. Do you guys think there should be a more varied therapeutical experience?
I'm only going to do therapy if it's a Black person. I just feel like I have to resonate with the person. And it's exactly what you said. It's you, and it's exactly what Richie was saying about if someone, I'll give an example, sidetrack. Remember in school when we did our CV thing, and then they came to teach us how to do interviews. I didn't resonate with those people. You know what I mean? So although they came to do something so impactful to us, I just remember looking at them thinking, why am I going to listen to you when you don't even know what I'm going through? But if you see someone who may have gone through the difficulties you've gone through, you'd easily more open up. So I think it's finding like-minded people with a similar story to you. You link onto them, because that's what people try to find a mentor. You find a mentor who has gone a similar path to you or something along those lines. So that's just my own opinion. Disclaimer, that's just what I perceive. But I feel like you'd have to do your own research on finding someone like you to then go to that person. That's the hardest thing.
Would male or female matter to you?
Nah.
Therapist?
Nah. I feel like, nah, it wouldn't. Because for me, it's more of someone who's been part of the diaspora. That's what I'm more after, rather than male or female. Because, yeah, I listen to all advices.
That's a very good question, Romy. That's going to open a very big platform. I've got someone on Zoom here. Just wanted to throw Isabella in, and because the main reason, like you said, in the ethnic minority, there's a lot of us here who are ethnic minorities, so it'd be nice to see your interpretations as well on that point, because it's quite a big one. Isabella, do you want to just jump on quickly?
Hey, and yeah, I know, I guess I'm the ethnic minority, but I was going to say with the therapy point, obviously there's so much demand and so little supply right now, and because it takes so long for people to get trained and waiting lists are so long, and even I think 18 months ago, I volunteered to be like a Samaritan's hotline, call person, didn't hear back for 18 months, and then only just recently got some email being like, by the way, you're still on the waiting list. Can you just refresh whether you still want to do this or not? Because now we've come around to you. And it's like, by then it's too late, right? It's like, how many people, anyway, I don't even want to think about it. But so with that in mind, knowing that there's such little supply of these services, that's so very much needed. There is actually rising these days about like these online chatbots. And I think technology is getting better at replicating a human, and actually I think maybe it's more advanced in the States, but I actually did read about this company called Wobot, and it was like done by Stanford psychologists and whatever, and they've created this chatbot, and people know that they're speaking to a chatbot about all their problems, and I'm feeling this way, and then the robot and AI has learned how to like have a conversation with you, and you're texting them. But then studies have shown that people, even though they know it's a robot, they felt like it was a person, and they felt like it had a gender or a personality, and they really opened up, and it was all just online chat. So then that goes to the previous point, when someone said that, why would I speak to a random or a stranger about my problems rather than my closest friends who know me more, etc. Like I wonder what the room thinks about, maybe speaking to like this anonymized personless robot online, and would that be easier to open up to perhaps?
I also want to say that we're kind of moving into that sort of final thoughts. I know that's like Bella's just opened a whole can of worm. I think Nia's also come up with the final thought that she's put into the chat. Maybe someone can read that out, but it might be worth just getting final thoughts, I think, from everybody now. I mean, there's so much food for thought, and obviously everyone's saying we've got to keep this going because we're just scratching the surface here. But that's all I want to say.
That's all right. No. So we could be here all night, guys.
Just quickly, just because I found that point that Bella made so interesting, and like just quickly reasoning in my own head about it, I think I'd feel very much more comfortable with the robot like in a weird kind of way, because it takes away any kind of not a judgment thing that I have an issue with per se, but as we've said before, you only know what you know. So the person you're speaking with, cool, they might be trained psychologist or whatever, but there's still a background to that person, and they're still interpreting the things that you're saying through a lens that they've lived their life with a professional context in mind, of course. But I just feel like, yeah, if technology is getting to such a stage where people are able to speak to robots and feel helped by that and feel comfortable by that, I'd at the very least be more on trying to do that than yeah, going to a person like a psychologist and speaking with them. But yeah. You know, that was just really interesting.
That was a very good point, actually. Yeah,
that's a good.
But just to chuck that in, it's gonna be the professionals that create the robots.
Now we're in trouble. Robots. Yeah, I don't know if it's scientists, and I hear what they're saying. It drives me crazy, mate. It really would, because I'm already trying to communicate with people, yeah, and I'm trying to, like this gentleman said over here about, you know, like-minded people, trying to find a mentor or trying to find someone. A robot just, I don't think will do it for me, man.
My
Send me a
robot counselor. My robot counselor blocked my call. Giving up on me.
On the point of the robot counselor, I was going to say that, yeah, but then think about the younger generations, as we're talking about growing up with phones. They talk to their friends more online and chatting, especially now in lockdown. Everyone's communicating digitally. So, like, again, maybe that's, I mean, because if you had therapy in the last 18 months, 20 over the pandemic, you're doing it over Zoom anyway. And things are just communication's just happening more online and chat. So, you know, that people are more comfortable texting and chatting. I don't know. The trend's going one way, I reckon, but yeah.
That's it, right?
Yeah,
so
it's a bit weird.
Siri.
It's a bit weird, the fact that it's a robot. But again, another thing that Ian said was there's no such thing as an original problem. Or any problem that anyone's got, like someone else has dealt with that problem and faced that problem and win, lose or draw, they've handled the situation. So, and I feel like there's a structure to problem solving, and there's a structure to a conversation, and there's a back and forth to a conversation. And if the robot is able to intelligently follow that train of thought or follow your train of thought with that whole, like, just an anonymous aspect of it, like it's not actually a human being, it's just like you're almost mathematically working out the problem that you have in your head. And I feel like there's something powerful to that as well.
The one thing that would be lacking, or perceived to be lacking, would be sincerity. Because it's like, I'm not a number. You know, the computers deal with numbers, and I'm not a number. I don't conform to any kind of strategy that computer may have. And again, the lack of sincerity, because it's not been through a broken marriage.
I was gonna say.
I just want to say quickly that my computer's been this one here has been broken several times, so it's been through a lot. Like, it got wrecked in a party a couple of years ago as well.
Can I still do my poem? Yeah. All right. So when you talk about mental health, it was hard for me to even write a piece. Like, I write a lot of poems, but I always say the reason I write is because I free write. What comes to my mind is what I write. So I write based on how I feel the moment, etc. But when people ask me like, "Oh, when did you write this?" It's like I can't really unpack it. I have to take the same journey that the person's hearing. I have to take too. So I always say to people, one thing that always helps is journaling. Right? Yeah. Growing up, I always thought journaling is what females do, because if you see all the movies, it's always a girl who's got a journal or a diary, and there's a diary.
Bridget Jones's Diary, was
that's
the one.
That's all you ever see. You don't see a guy using the journal, the diary. But in school we had a diary, but it was just for homework. If someone told me you could, and yeah, that did not exist. But it's like, yeah, if people told you like a diary is just for you to, you know, make note of what you went through on that day, so that when you feel a certain way, you can look back and how you've overcome the problem you had back then. You would see that, okay, I'm still moving forward. And I think that's why I say to people, just write or find any way to express yourself. People do that in many ways, music, art, even going to the gym, that's a different form, exercise. So that's how I say it. And on my point before I start, whilst I search for it on my phone, my question is like, what's the last movie you saw? Because it's usually movies, or it could be music, song, but what's the last movie you saw that made you cry? And I'm gonna find, yeah.
Jeez Louise. Oh, that's a bit heavy, man, isn't it?
Always cry at the end of May.
Really?
Oh. Late.
Okay. No, actually, I have a good one. Raj, we're coming to you because I can see you've got your hand up as well. So we'll make sure you got your movie reference in your head. For me personally, that scene in Up at the beginning with the old man and his wife, and I was like, this is the saddest thing like ever. And I literally was like, I would never tell anyone, and look where I am now. But that's what I mean about us just being able to express ourselves, which is nice as well. But I hear what you mean, though. I definitely resonate with what you're saying. Shall we? Anybody else? Anyone?
Well, you man don't cry.
You don't cry?
I didn't cry, but
I don't remember.
Attack on Titan.
No?
I went through
a lot of emotion.
Disturbance.
Yeah.
It was. I felt weighty.
It's heavy, isn't it?
It was coming.
Yeah?
It was on the surface, but I held it back.
Lovely. That's it. Hold back the floodgates. Mikey, did you have one?
I just last week went to see Spider-Man.
Oh,
Spider-Man. I don't want to say what happened.
Nothing.
Just, also, I want to say final thoughts.
Yeah, let's get to this. So, what I wanted to just do is, sorry guys, we're gonna hopefully do another session. I would love to address you guys, but just touching on everything that's happened, Nia actually dropped a very, very big question. Us as men, as women, everybody who's going through mental health, what do you want? What's going to help you out? What's going to alleviate the pressure for you? What can communities, schools do for you, yourself as an individual, to try and make things better? I've got lots of different campaigns. David, you saw, we're talking on Instagram about the Brewdog campaign, which is quite an interesting one. It's a very good one. Yeah, it's a very weird spin on words about men's mental health, because we like to express ourselves over beer. So then they have a non-alcoholic beer. It's called Sad AF. So it's just for men to just sit down and just talk. And that's literally what they're trying to do in society. We've got Calm, which is their campaign against living miserably. Everyone knows about the Calm Society. So you as an individual, what would you want from society, from around people around you, things around you, to help you with your mental health battles?
Well, since I'm now,
let's go around.
Mine would be I like so what cheers me up, or like what makes me feel good is when like someone smiles, like a stranger or something like that. If someone smiles at me, that immediately, like, I just feel better. I just feel like, I just feel that connection. So like, if more people smile, that would help me out.
For me, I think, I don't know if it's because of what we've begun with the podcast, Find Out For What, in case anyone wants to follow. I've had a lot more people come up to me and actually express what they're going through. And I'm talking more females than males. Males too, to the point where it's so deep that I don't know what to do. You know what I mean? So I feel like these kind of platforms would do so many people a lot of good. And people should be encouraged to join and share. Because I learned a lot from Ricky. I learned a lot from you. And I think a lot of the older generation should have platforms, because I know a lot of times that you guys don't have social media, but you guys should have the platform to speak about the things you went through, because we're getting to that age where we might go through the same type of thing. So I would love to see more platforms like this.
I would say
probably more open like events and things that you can do. Like for example, like I'm saying, we can train to be a mental health first aider, but need to have more like campaigns like that or more initiatives to allow normal people to like be more like educated about mental health. Like, so I think they need to open that up, provide more avenues to learn and train about it, so you can recognize the triggers or what someone might be going through and stuff like that.
Mine would be just no judgment. So just if someone tells you anything or opens up to you, just take them for what they are and just don't judge what they have to say.
That's a big point. It's something we did touch on today as well, isn't it? That's a very good one.
I accept that, and my heart is still open.
Ooh. I like that. I like that bit of poetry.
100%.
Mikey, do you want to go ahead?
I'll just say, I'm addicted to the chat. And I think just more conversations and more, literally just more talking, I think is what I would like to see, both for me and for other people as well. I think sometimes as well, we can be a bit scared to make a mistake or say the wrong thing. But in the end, I think if you've got that intention to be helpful, you've just got to go for it and give it a go.
It's about the heart, really, isn't it? That's it. It's about the heart. Morgan? Go on, run around.
No. I think for me, I agree with a lot of what you guys said, and I think smiling is just so simple. I think no judgment is so big as well. But I think for me is like basically leave yourself alone. Like when things, sometimes it's like the littlest things that kind of like amount to something massive. Don't let them do that. Like it's, a lot of things are not that deep. When it gets deep, then obviously you have to, but a lot of things we just make them up in our heads as like, oh my God, my job is just so amazingly important. What this person thinks of me is so important. It's not that important. Some things.
On your note, Archie, there's something called the Smile Project. This guy actually goes around schools and take pictures of kids and smiling, and then he puts like posters and look into
really
it.
Interesting. That's really interesting.
So that's what he does for mental health for kids in school. But for me, I think it's because I read a book called The Gifts of Imperfection. So the 3 gifts of imperfection is courage, compassion, and connection. And it talks a lot about shame. So I think my advice is people to have no shame. So in every conversation you have, just don't have shame, because the minute you attach shame to it, that kind of adds on to it being a battle in your mind. But if you have no shame, or shame to some degree, but if you have no shame to have a conversation and not feel judged, that helps, because the more you talk about something, the less the weight is on you. So that's my one.
I've got 2 things. One of them is for people to actually listen more. Like listen twice as much as we speak. If you remember in one of our podcasts, I did say that we were given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And you see, like most of the times when you don't listen, even though you're going through like a not so good place, most of the times the blessing is normally just could be just right in front of you, but because you're so distracted on like what's going on in your life, like you don't realize it. You know what I mean? So that's one thing. People to listen more. Another thing is like more education about personal development, because I guess that growing up, like we were all, as men, like we were all conditioned to like kind of be a provider, like go and chase money here and there, but then we just weren't taught the right way to, or like the right way to go about it. So like I'd say that more like more youth clubs to be open, and so people who are more relatable, like people like Richie, you can go speak to like the kids and make it more like a normal and more of a cool thing to want to open up to people and not want to hide how they feel, and more workplaces, more universities to have like mental health support. Those are what I'd like. All good. Thanks.
Myself, I think you guys have said it already, man. I think what I'd like to say is thank you for inviting me today, and I'm glad I did come and listen to you guys. And I just think that mental health is something that it can be like, you can be a confident person, and then strong, be a strong person battling whatever you're doing, and then breakdown, have a breakdown, or it can be progressive, without you even knowing, it's like you're just challenging, you're battling something, and then, you know, it can happen. I just think, again, you know, you made some good points. You made some good points, bro. And this brother here has made some good points. I just think awareness is one of the biggest things, and just be out there, just like, you know, just like selling it. You just got to sell this, because, you know, so I personally think society is creating sick people, sick youngsters, because it's the youngsters that aren't listening, because we have already been through it and had a few kick up the arse and stuff like that. We're like, yo, how do we fix up? I can't manage. But yeah, I just think, it's been good listening to you guys. But yeah, definitely, man.
Thank you. Likewise, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that as well. It's been an experience, seeing that people have the same sort of problems, regardless of their social upbringing or their background or whatever. What actually I just thought of, as our friend here was saying, that was I saw on the side of a building, what's the point of being sane in a mad world? You know, and I think that rings true. I think you have to live to your own standards. I think you have to forgive yourself. I think you have to understand that you're not going to be at the forefront of everything, and that not everything's your responsibility, and you've made mistakes in the past. And the thing about guilt is very important, because that's our reference point. When we did this before, I did that, and it was terrible, and I don't want to go back there. So yeah, to forgive yourself, be aware of your own humanity, not try to be something you're not, and enjoy what you are.
No, it's very true. That's a powerful.
I'm at a stage in my life now. I got married. I'm 64 years old, and I got married when I was 58 for the first time. And I'm probably the happiest I've ever been in my whole life, because I'm kind of very well centered. I've not got any unrealistic goals. I'm happy sort of meeting so many good people. And sharing. So it's all good.
Lovely. No, that's very, very true. Thank you for that. That's good, man. So, lovely, beautiful stuff. Just before, Raj, I know your hands have been up for a very long time. You've probably lost all blood circulation in that. But give us 2 seconds. Isabella's just about to pop off. So just wanted to hear what she wanted. So Isabella, what would you like for your mental health battle from society and everything around you?
I felt like when in my lowest moments, I felt the need or the sort of urge to actually help others. And I think a lesson for myself is when you're in these crisis modes, like an example is like one time I just was like literally on the brink, and I remember calling Mind and Samaritans, neither of them picked up on like a Friday afternoon. And then that led me to volunteer for the Samaritans, right? And so I just think sometimes, well, again, it's different for every person, but like, yeah, if the question's about me personally, I think it's more like recognizing that if I need help, instead of thinking, God, anyone else who's suffering, it feels so bad, doesn't it? And I want to help them, actually like just focus on myself and get myself better first, and then, you know, get back out there and be strong for people around me and whatever.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I think that comes with people. A lot of people with a big heart suffer from that, and I think that's just something we all go through. You always want to it's savior complex, really, isn't it? You always want to help others before you help yourself, and that's just what it is. Like we said, that's what we do as humans. But thank you very much for joining us. You're free. Thanks so much for hosting me. That's all right. Thank you very much. Right. So moving on to the man with one hand. Raj, what would you like?
To be fair, do you know, this is the only time I'm glad I'm in a queue other than Fort Park or other places getting into there's so much weight to this group, right?
Yeah.
Like, what everybody's saying, and I get it, it's an open platform and everybody has the views, and that's the best part about it. So big up to everybody else, because everyone's open to talking about how they feel. I think my point was going back to the sort of AI, the robot thing that Isabella was saying, and that's what Ricky was saying. You know, Ricky was saying, well, do you know what, that don't watch me. I want to speak to a human being. And that's understandable, right? There are people there that will listen to you, but at the same time, there's also the AI robot where you've got, you know, for example, I'll say my friend, his younger sister, she's like 18 years old, 17, 18. She got bullied on Snapchat because she didn't have enough streaks. Full stop. When I went to school, we got bullied because you wore your jeans, your trousers too high, or you were front, or you didn't move to a girl.
Yeah.
And stuff, yeah. So as time goes on, you have to adapt to society or technology. Whilst it can be the bane of a life, I think another one mentioned. Amy said about Instagram can only consume social media can only consume it if you let it. So why don't we not, instead of saying what's right or wrong, why don't we just use the tools that we have and just appreciate that, do you know what, it is available to those that are in need. And to the point that Ricky made, like, our younger generation are going to be our successor or predecessors. We are their predecessor, right? And they are going to be allowing us to learn. So if that's the case, then if they only know robots, i.e. Instagram and so forth, then if that's available, then fair enough. Like, would you surely not want to have something that's available on hand rather than waiting in the Samaritan's queue 2 months and just be like, do you know what, it's too late.
Yeah.
So it's a case of utilizing the tools that you have around you. And I'm just glad that we're in a generation where we can have both. Do you know what I mean? This, as we speak, how do we know each other? I've never met any of you guys, but because of a Zoom link technology, I got to meet Ricky, I got to meet you, I got to meet, a lot of other people, Isabella and so forth. So for me, it's more of a case of just utilizing what you have around you, and whatever works for you, works for you. Do you know what I mean? The options are there, full stop.
Yeah, like that. We like that. We like that. We like that. Anyone else on the Zoom who wants to chip in on the chat or anything? Anyone? Feel free if you don't want to talk. That's completely fine. We've got some. Yep.
Yeah.
Go on.
So I think like we could the best thing we could do is like start with our families, new generation kids. Like I have 8 and 11-year-old sisters who I try to encourage them now, to tell me how their day went, when I'm there, because right now I'm in Prague actually. But when I'm in the UK with them, I try to encourage them to speak and tell me how they're feeling and communicate that better rather than arguing too much and stuff. So I think that's something that we could do.
100%, definitely. Goes on to the youth thing, like we said, isn't it? Really, it's affecting the youth and tackling the youth first before we even get to that hurdle. We've got a few more people in the studio. Anyone want to say nothing now? Feel free. Yeah. So that's it. That we're gonna start concluding. So for me, just to try and give the answer, for me personally, it's about community. It is a reason why we created this platform, is because I realized that speaking to people gets so much off your chest. I even called David last week. Don't say too loud about what I told you about. But I told you, I was like, Dave, like, which thing exactly? That's how I was like, Dave, this happened to me, this happened to me. He's like, bloody hell, man, you might as well stay away from me. You got bad luck at the moment. But it helped me so much just to have someone to just be like, this is what's going on in my life at the moment. How do you feel? Blah, blah, blah. Have a little joke about it. But at the end of the day, I literally went to bed with a smile. And it helps me so much. Having that somebody, having that community, having a platform to speak. And that's what we're trying to do with Man Up For What. And we're going to continue to do that as well. So guys, thank you very much for joining us. Seems as though we are pretty much wrapping up here. Just as little sweetener, we do have somebody who wanted to do a little bit of a closing poem for us. A little outro, yeah?
I'll take that
outro. Before we go, I think the first round of applause we have to give is obviously to ourselves for being able to actually attend this. That's it. That's it. Thank you very much for being able to attend. Be yourself, be expressive. Don't hold back. That's it. Keep going, David.
Still figuring it out.
That's it. Just for you to be yourself and be expressive and know that none of us are going to judge you whatsoever. Like we said, it's mental health, it's men's mental health. The one thing that we do as men is banter. We laugh at our problems. You tell someone if it gets off your chest, but we laugh it off. That's what we're doing. That's what we're trying to do. Something very open, very warm space here. Second shout out, we have to give it to the people with the most beautiful table in the house.
Yes. Oh,
thank you very, very much. Thank you for hosting us, guys. Honestly, it's been a journey for us. We have tried to find people who accommodate us, who will have us, and we appreciate you so much. You've made everything so easy for us. And thank you very much for the people who speak. Just so you know, our studio is in Poplar. If anybody does want to pop down, they're very open to whatever topics you're looking to do. I was actually with the event with them yesterday, literally dropped in, popped out whenever I need to. And it's so welcoming. But thank you very much, guys. Thank you for everybody on Zoom, YouTube, Instagram, everybody there. Yes, sir.
Oh, nice. So yeah.
For me, have a good night. But
oh yeah. So before you have a good night, I'll bless your ears.
You've got the seductive voice out.
Oh yeah, you know you got to do the DJ voice. The earlier question I'd ask is, what was the last movie that made you cry? So the next question for that is, am I the only one who shed a tear watching Big Hero 6? My dad was my biggest hero since the grown age of 6. Sword master when holding a stick, teaching me mystic arts to guard my heart through discipline of the dark lessons he could not part. I once saw him chase a burglar, swelling a machete on his wrists, fearing no man. To protect his home, to protect his own. My pen is a sword and my tongue is the wrist that spins, twists and tells our parents' generation tells. I've never been to pen, but my emotions have been locked up. Men don't grow to show emotions, placing their feelings in a prison, refracting white lies of reality into a prism of isms, focusing on making a living, not actually living. Maybe that's why our women are more expensive. Yes, I said expressive, making diamonds a girl's best friend because it shines under pressure. Reasons that you miss are hidden behind norms that are too bliss to recall. Eyes lit, ignoring the ignorance of the curtains of my eyelids, making a blink jinx sentiments of a gentle man that are extinct. Because a big man doesn't flinch from things that can't be seen. The only thing that's in my eyes is dust from old tales where happy ending massages our masculinity, limiting the ingenuity of reality. Resting our worst thoughts within, we either submit or pin to overcome, hoping to win traumas they taught us, but actually haunt us, car. The I do man is hocus pocus, making you focus on orders from elders raised in colder times who became winter soldiers to shield their hearts with the weapons they yield. As the years passed, discussion peeled our tough skins from the bro code they appealed. Tears stampede on our cheeks when we insist to check the past memories that invade, making the present bleed. Don't hide your feelings. The greater the danger, the bigger the return. Taking it back to the future, we become lost in the direction of our minds. I'm not the only one who shed a tear watching the big hero in the streets lose the battle in his mind, because to him, emotions will leave you buried 6 foot under, unable to see how walking with rage leads to a path covering explosive minds. Your future does not lie in your past. So pick up the truth that there's experiences you can never leave behind. Correct these wrongs to own your life. Correct these wrongs to own the life you own by talking about how you feel inside. You'll never be alone. Thank you.
Lovely stuff. That's it. I think that last line pretty much sums it up and sums up our night, guys. You will never be alone whatsoever. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for joining us. You have a very good night.
Yeah.